What's up, my lovely friends? It's been a very delicious week of perfumes this week. I'm just looking around at all the bottles here I've got to try and fit on today. There's a lot. I have worn and tested quite a lot. So let's see, where are we going to start today? Let's start with... I wanted to pull this one out and wear it again just because we are going through a warm snap at the moment. So before we kind of moved into the weather where this is going to be way too strong and sweet for me to wear, I just wanted to enjoy it. Oh, Lolita Lempicka. This is the Mon Premier version of the Eau de Parfum. So this is the one that's a little bit easier going, not quite as complex. It's not quite as musky. It's got more cherry and it's got more praline than the Le Parfum, which is a little bit more kind of dark, spicy, sexy, musky. This is a little bit more playful, but they do still smell very similar to each other. The bonus of Mon Premier is that you can get it for a really good price, so you can get it for cheaper than you would have to pay for the actual Le Parfum, but you're still getting a relatively similar experience. The thing I always miss from this one, if I'm in the mood for Le Parfum, is the musk, because the musk is really sexy. It's maybe a touch animalic, but it's just such a beautiful musk in the base of the Le Parfum, and it's quite a strong musk. If you don't like strong musks, then this is definitely going to be the version to go for. So this one is cherry, star anise and ivy in the top, mid notes licorice, violet, orris and amaryllis, base notes praline, vanilla, tonka bean, musk and vetiver. It's pretty much the same notes, but I would say here the anise, the licorice, the violets, those are kind of further down in this mix than they are, and the musk, like I said, way further down in this mix than in the Le Parfum, and the praline, vanilla and cherry are stronger in this one to me. That it's more syrupy sweet, but anyway, it's beautiful. It's so fabulous in cold weather, this one, so I needed to wear it before it got too warm again. Another one that's also a classic. Oh, this is like a kind of second skin smell for me, you know. Oh, it's so beautiful. That's why I've got like actually a good dent in this guy that I've put in it myself. This is Stash Unspoken from Sarah Jessica Parker. One of my absolutely favourite cold weather scents. It's cozy, it's a little bit powdery, it's very sweet. It has got a slight floralness, but for me this is like tonka bean and sandalwood. It has, if you know what Scarlet Poppy is like from Jo Malone, it has a kind of texture that reminds me of that, but it's not quite the same scent, but it does definitely have that kind of powdery tonka and wood scent that you get in Scarlet Poppy. This is quince, pink pepper in the top, middle notes of honeysuckle, wisteria and peony. Base notes are tonka bean, sandalwood, musk and olibanum. You get a little bit of everything here. The only thing that I wouldn't be able to really pull out is the peony, and I'd say the honeysuckle is a bit stronger than the wisteria. But I think generally speaking, like the quince, you get it a bit in the top, you get the pepper a bit, the olibanum a bit. As I said, tonka bean, sandalwood, hint of honeysuckle is essentially what this turns into on my skin. So yeah, it's very, very beautiful. Okay. Oh, this next one. This one, let's see, where to start? I'll start at the beginning. This is one of the samples that Roxy sent me. So this is very beautiful. This is a little sample of Ormonde Jayne, Ormonde Woman. And I wore this, I think I was testing it at the weekend maybe. And I've made my video, which I need to kind of edit so I can actually put it up in bite-sized chunks, of just like my first kind of sniffs of all the stuff that Roxy sent me through, all the samples. And this one was one where I was like, ooh, it's sexy. Kind of reminds me of Molecule 04. And as it turns out, this is a perfume made by the same perfumer who makes the eccentric Molecule perfumes. So it probably has got something similar in. It probably has got the Molecule 04 sandalwood in it, if you see what I mean, which to me is a kind of musky, quite thick, soft, creamy, sweet sandalwood smell. But this has a very bright freshness on top, and it's kind of sweet, it's pretty. And then when I tested it on my skin, I just literally, it was like eyes rolling into the back of my head, and I was like, this does really remind me a bit of Molecule 04, which is a perfume I love the smell of, but I had to give to my husband because I cannot smell that perfume on me. Funnily enough, he was actually wearing that yesterday to work, and then the whole flat smells of it. And when he was in bed with me, as soon as he'd like gone to a different room, I could still smell it on the sheets. I can smell it everywhere when it's not on my skin. If it's on my skin, I can't smell Molecule 04. So anyway, I gave it to him because I love it. And he smells really good in it. But I was like, oh, I found a version. I found something that kind of is a bit like that I can actually smell on myself. So I went straight onto eBay to see if I could get a secondhand bottle, which I managed to, and it just arrived. So this is the bottle of Ormonde Jayne. And I have to say, I had no idea until I was looking it up on the internet how expensive this brand is. I was really surprised. I was like, okay, because eccentric molecules aren't massively expensive, like they're relatively affordable. This, I think, new is over £200, but I got it for under 100 because I got a partial bottle and I made an offer on eBay, basically. There were a couple of bottles of this on eBay. So I was like, right, I'm going to offer something up. I'm going to read you the notes and then I'm going to continue with my tale of this one. So top notes, grass, cardamom and coriander. Mid notes of black hemlock, violet and jasmine. Base notes of vetiver, cedar, sandalwood and amber. So this one, it definitely starts off kind of bright, grassy, almost Christmas tree-like. It's got that kind of fir smell to it, you know, that piney smell that you get with Christmas trees. But like this is like an outdoory kind of scent at the same time. But then the more it dries down, the more it gets a kind of, you know what it is? Like at first, it kind of reminds me a little bit of Tam Dao from, is that the right one? Yeah. I always get Doson and Tam Dao mixed up, but the sandalwoody one. Tam Dao from Diptyque, except it doesn't have the peanutty smell that I get from Tam Dao. And this is therefore, I mean, to be fair, this smells totally unisex to me. In a traditional sense, it smells totally unisex, but a little bit more feminine leaning than Tam Dao, because I think there's something about the peanutty feel in Tam Dao that makes it lean a tiny bit more masculine. And so I tried them on both sides of my skin, and I was like, they kind of start off in that same slightly green, woody, slightly musky, thick, slightly creamy realm. And then this one dries down in a different way to Tam Dao. And then weirdly, when Tam Dao was on my skin, I was like, oh, well, Elphaba from Lush, the deep dry down of that actually smells very similar to the deep dry down of Tam Dao, and Tam Dao is super expensive and Elphaba isn't. So if you can still get Elphaba and you like Tam Dao, definitely give Elphaba a try. Like, I mean, genuinely, I feel like when Tam Dao dries down properly on my skin and it gets a bit sweeter and the greenness dies down a little bit, really, really reminded me of Elphaba. So there you go. But this one, and I hadn't realised until I actually got the bottle, the dry down of this reminds me of Paul Smith Woman Extreme. Now, that one starts off in a more floral realm. There's a lot of freesia, there's some tea in it, but there's a lot of wood in that, and there's like a musky smell. And thinking back of it now, it's probably got the same Molecule 04 synthetic sandalwood that this one has. Yeah, and it like... I'm kind of kicking myself now for buying Ormonde Woman, because although I do think this is beautiful and I do think it's sexy, I got rid of my Paul Smith Woman Extreme because it could become a bit overwhelming to wear, like, and slightly cloying, because it kind of clung to the skin forever. And it's the same with that kind of creamy synthetic wood smell that goes kind of musky. And I kept my mini of that, but I didn't keep the big bottle because I was like, I don't really need that much of this perfume. And although, like I said, this one starts somewhere different, but it kind of ends up in a very similar realm. So I need to try and wear this one again at some point to see whether actually it was a bit of a mistake and I got too overexcited when I bought it. Because if it reminds me too much of the Paul Smith, and I have a miniature of that, then I don't need this big bottle because essentially the dry down is what I'm going to have on for most of the day. So yeah, I might have jumped the gun a little bit on this one, although I do think it's beautiful. It's expensive, and even if I did get it at like way less than half price, it's still relatively expensive in my collection. So if I'm not going to wear it, I won't end up keeping it. But yeah, so I mean, sometimes you see, even this wasn't even a blind buy and I still managed to possibly make a mistake even if I like it. So yeah, there you go. That was a weird day when I realized that. I was kind of kicking myself, but anyway, never mind. Sometimes my nose, is quicker than my brain, and sometimes it isn't. All right, what else do we have? Oh yes, okay. Another one that I was testing out because I haven't worn it for ages. We had a bit of a warmer day and I'd been testing out something else that also has kind of a tropical fruity floral feel. So I ended up putting this one on. This is so pretty. This is Mambo from Liz Claiborne. This is I would say it's quite a mature fruity floral. So a lot of fruity florals to me smell kind of like something that teenage girls in the 2000s would wear, or they're, I don't know, they're maybe a bit shampooey, or they're a bit, I don't know, boring, or a bit generic. This one, because I feel like this has a bit of a spirit of Libre in it, because it has quite a lot of orange blossom. It's got some ginger, it's got the mandarin orange, it's got a musk and a sandalwood and a vanilla. This also has hibiscus, mango, and ylang ylang. So it has a kind of fruity, bright, slightly tropical feel on top of what is quite a bar soapy, grown-up smell. So I feel like this is a really good one if you find most fruity florals and summery perfumes they smell like, I don't know, like cocktails, that you're going to get at a bar, and they just smell a little bit boring, a bit escardery, If that's not your vibe, but you want something that has like mango in it, something that's got something in it that's going to smell a little bit more fresh and fruity and juicy, but you don't want to smell like a little girl, Mambo's a really good option. My husband likes this one. He tends to like perfumes that have a kind of orangey, mango-y, basically orange fruit smell about them. Passion fruit, that kind of thing. But yeah, this one's really pretty, and it was making me think I kind of wish I'd kept a decant of the Jennifer Lopez Miami Glow. I really struggled to wear that one because it's so strong on me and it's very soapy, and sometimes it went a bit sharp and shampooey. But I probably should have kept myself a little sample because I got rid of my big bottle. And for some reason, you can't get that one in 30 mils. I feel like if I could have got that in 30 mils, I would have continued to try it out because there is something very beautiful about Miami Glow. But I think that one's also quite a grown-up fruity floral as well. It's really pretty. Okay, so that was Mambo from Liz Claiborne. And then I'm so happy about this. When I first smelt Burberry Goddess, I was saying I really wanted La Rive or someone else to come out with like an affordable dupe of it. And now both Maison Alhambra and Lataffa have quite good dupes, but the Maison Alhambra one, not as nice to me as the Lataffa. So, I've said it before, every time I'm going to wear this, like I don't normally like Lataffas. I don't tend to get on well with them because they use quite a huge amount of the modern aroma chemicals that either give me a headache or smell like tar. I have actually got a bunch of samples that I'll talk to you guys about. I've got some Paris Corners and I've got like a Lataffa, the new Billie Eilish and stuff. As soon as I get a chance to talk about those samples, I will. But the Lataffa sample I got from there is absolute head splitting. This is not. This is fabulous. This is an amazing dupe. Or interpretation maybe, of Burberry Goddess, and it's really easy to wear. this is what I wanted from Burberry Goddess, because this, when I was in the right mood and I wasn't picking up too much of the kind of aroma chemically feel that I get sometimes from Goddess, that is like such an easy reach, sweet, pretty vanilla. And I wanted that because I tend to have, like, I don't really have any simple vanillas, well, apart from like Goddess. And it's not that it's like massively simple. It has like cacao and ginger, and it is an interesting perfume. But it's kind of, if it works for you, I feel it's that easygoing, sweet, light vanilla. It's not going to be too cloying or overpowering. It's kind of perfect. Most of my vanillas are a bit more complex. They're green, or they're aromatic, you know, or they're very like old school floral vanillas, you know. This is now my I want to smell like vanilla. This is just going to be that for me. And because I've got a big bottle, I don't have to worry about using a lot of it, you know. I can just be like, yep, spray it all over. It's very beautiful. I love it. The notes listed for this are ginger, mandarin and pink pepper in the top, lavender, praline, cacao and jasmine in the mid. Base notes, vanilla, amber and musk. This also to me has a kind of woody feel in the dry down. Like, I imagine there's like maybe some kind of cedar wood or something, but very light in the bottom of this, which is just what I get immediately. And it's very sweet because of that praline. I get the cacao in this one immediately. I really don't get much ginger though. Like, there is, I think what is supposed to be ginger is coming across to me when I first spray this as smelling a little bit like a cleaning product. So there's something about that mandarin orange with the ginger that smells a little bit, ooh, I'd clean my kitchen surfaces with this. That goes away really quickly though, and then you get that very, very sweet, delicious praline, vanilla and a bit of lavender throughout. Whereas in Burberry Goddess, that ginger in it is amazing, and that ginger lasts and is strong, and I love the ginger. But yeah, there's just something in Goddess that just doesn't work for me. So this one, I'm loving it, guys. I'm loving it. Just going to make sure that this isn't ridiculously dark. Okay. Oh yes. So I don't think I wore one last week, did I? My God, madness. Because it was a bit warmer, I reached, instead of Mon Guerlain Intense, I just reached for the regular one. Oh, this is an absolute queen of a perfume. I love this with a burning passion. I mean, I don't need to tell you guys that. I'm always going on about it. I wear it all the time. As soon as I fell in love with it, that was it. I was finished. So this is the original, as you can see. I have a nice dent. My husband got this for me, not this Christmas just gone, but the Christmas before. And then it came in a set. So I've got this little guy that goes with it. So you can see I've got a little dent in my 10mm as well. So I do wear this one. I love it. I will continue wearing this one tons, I imagine, now that the weather is getting a little bit warmer. Because in winter, there is absolutely no beating the intense version of this. The intense version is stronger, it's more vanillic, it lasts longer, and it is fantastic in cold weather. Equally addictive. But this one is just so perfect for, you know, as soon as it gets a little bit milder. Oh, I love it so much. So let's have a look at this. We've got lavender and bergamot in the top. We've got mid notes of iris, jasmine, sambac and rose. We've got base notes of Tahitian vanilla, coumarin, Australian sandalwood, licorice, benzoin and patchouli. It's got a warmth. It's got a beautiful aromatic quality to it. That lavender is so friggin' beautiful. The iris is really pretty. You don't get a huge amount of the jasmine and the rose, thankfully. And it's just that, it's this beautiful Guerlain vanilla, which I think is really recognisable. And I'll talk to you about a sample that I wore this week as well. I really think that you can recognise the vanilla that Guerlain use in most of their perfumes, and it's beautiful. But when it's mixed with tonka, it's just like out of this world. Beautiful sweetness. Love it. Obsessed. Oh, I've got a tiny little tale about this one. How am I doing for time? Not too bad. So, I don't know if I can smell this from the spray because it doesn't have a lid. Barely. But I mean, I can remember I wore it just a couple of days ago. So I was walking, where was I? Oh, I was on the tube. I was getting off the tube and someone was in front of me. that every time the kind of breeze caught her, and I can't tell you who it was because there was a whole group of women, but I got this waft of the most beautiful perfume, and I literally was thinking to myself, God, that is amazing. The sillage from whatever she's wearing is beautiful. It smells so, so good. And I was just like, every time I got a waft, and then we got on the escalators. So there were like maybe like 5 or 6 women in front of me. I didn't know who it was. And when we kind of got up to the top and everyone went in different directions, I couldn't quite pick it out. By the time I worked out who I thought it was, she was gone. But I was very close to going and asking her. But while I was on the escalators, I was thinking to myself, God, that is so beautiful. But I know that. What is that scent? I know it. And then I started thinking, not only do I know it, I have that scent. I recognise it. It's in my collection. What is it? And then I realised it is, I'd be willing to make a bet that she was wearing Jean Paul Gaultier Classique Eau de Parfum. This one with the red. I think it was far too sweet to be the original Classique. Well, the scent that was coming off her. My God, this is so beautiful. So I literally wore it the next day because I was like, I could not get enough of smelling her. Like, I would have followed her if I wasn't, if that wasn't extremely creepy and maybe a bit frightening. Man, this is beautiful. You have to be a bit careful with this perfume because when you first spray it on, it basically smells like ginger ale. It doesn't really have much of a smell. And then it starts to develop and it gets stronger and stronger. So the first time I tried this, I was in Stratford. I was meeting my friend in the big Westfield Centre. We were going to have some dinner. And while I was waiting for her to arrive, I went to Beauty Care, I think it's called, or the beauty store or something. They have really an excellent selection of perfumes in there. They have a whole section of like Middle Eastern perfumes. But then on the other side, they've got the affordable stuff. They've got the body mist. They've got celebrity stuff. And then they've got the more expensive stuff all along the wall. And I noticed this bottle and I thought, is that a different one to because I've had Classique EDT when I was young and I don't love it. And I got myself a sample to remind me, and it's just way too bitter and green for me. It's very strong orange blossom. But I sprayed this on my arm and I was like, I can't really smell it. Went off to have dinner with my friend, could not stop smelling my arm. I got in a taxi to go home and I was literally on my phone in the taxi ordering a bottle of it. I mean, it's just amazing. But yeah, it starts very light. It starts genuinely smelling like ginger ale. And I don't ever lose that quality of ginger ale throughout the whole wear. But it becomes sweeter, more floral, much more powdery. It says here for the notes, rum, rose and Sicilian mandarin in the top. Mid notes of orchid and narcissus. Base notes vanilla, amber, sandalwood and tonka bean. And I am absolutely 100% sure, though, that this still has orange blossom in it. It still has some of those original elements from Classique. It's not like... This, to me, doesn't smell like a completely different perfume. It smells like a sweet, syrupy flanker of the original, and therefore, for me, much more wearable. So the rum, I think, is not boozy in this, but gives it a kind of slight richness. As I said, it's got a real powdery quality. If you don't like powdery perfumes, you probably won't like this. The main thing I get here is the narcissus, and it really reminds me of a much easier to wear, sexy, less thick version, and probably slightly less complex version of Poem. So it's kind of like if you imagine the original Classique being mashed up with Poem, and then having like a real obvious sparkly ginger ale note in there. That's the kind of feel that I get from this. And it did I wanted to wear Poem this week, and then the weather changed and I was like, I know I can't wear that perfume unless it's really cold. Like, it is way too strong for me. I need only one spray and it's already too strong. It's kind of a bit like the original Poison in that respect. Like, I really can't go too far with that perfume and I have to wear it in cold weather. Whereas this one, beautiful. Oh my God, so beautiful. And it's weird that they don't say there's ginger in here, because I am absolutely sure there is ginger in here. It's, just sometimes the notes are just not really very descriptive of how something actually smells. But yeah, I'm sure there's still orange blossom in this, or maybe neroli or something. Because when I first spray it, I get that ginger ale, but I also do get a bit of the original Classique. It's just not as green and bitter. And then the more it dries down, the more you get the kind of rum, and you get more vanilla, and you get that narcissus really pushing through. It's just gorgeous. And I do kind of feel like Poem and Classique are slightly similar to each other, because that Sarah Mays always talks about the Pascal Morabito perfume. I can't remember what it's called, but there is one that she always says smells like the original Poem. But when I smelt that in the same store, actually, that I smelt this one, it smells much more like Classique to me. It's a bit sweeter, but I think it's more jasmine heavy, and kind of has that kind of jasmine, orange blossom, Classique-y kind of smell. Whereas I think Poem is much sweeter, has tons of narcissus in it, and it really has this sort of custardy, creamy feel in the base that you don't get in Classique, and I wasn't really getting too much of in the Pascal Morabito. But anyway, it's so beautiful, sexy. I think the scent bubble from this is magical. So yeah, love that. Oh, I wore Skin Musk. I wear this quite a lot, but I thought I would, every now and again, I just have to actually mention it. I love the oil. This is just my favourite musk. It is basically like wearing a second skin. Like, this is kind of second skin in terms of like a cosy, cold weather, slightly powdery, yummy perfume. This is second skin, as in it's just what I would like my skin to smell like. And because I wear it quite a lot of the time, it is what my skin smells like. Beautiful. They only say musk, sandalwood and floral notes here, but there's definitely vanilla. I'd say there's rose, there's probably some ylang ylang, there's probably some jasmine. The cologne version of this smells more sugary, a bit more powdery, and it smells a bit heavier in the rose. Whereas this one, I think, is not quite as heavy in the rose, and it has maybe a slightly more vanillic sweetness, and it's not quite as powdery. I'm obsessed with it, and I love it. It's gorgeous. Perfect. So then I broke this one out because I was testing something else. And let's have a smell. Okay, hang on. Let me start the other way around, actually. So the one I was testing, another Roxy sample. So thank you to Roxy. Roxy, I hope you're enjoying my takes on the perfumes that you sent me. Yeah, it's just really exciting. It's really fun. Imaginary Authors, Sundrunk. I'd never, until Roxy sent me the samples, I'd never smelt anything by Imaginary Authors. I've only ever seen normally American YouTubers actually talking about Imaginary Authors. So Sundrunk has orange, rhubarb, neroli, honeysuckle, hibiscus and rosewater. That's what the notes say. And I was sniffing this and I was like, well, I feel like this smells very similar to this, which is Karma from Lush. So I put some... Karma is such a weird perfume for me because I love how this smells, but I really struggle when I try to wear this. I don't know why Karma is like really headachy for me. I think it's the fruit with the patchouli. But it's so evocative, this perfume, for me, because my mum always loved the hand soap of Karma. I feel like maybe there's something about it that reminds her, if you see what I mean, of the 70s, right? The 60s and the 70s, of like the hippie days of the love and light and, those hippie patchoulis, because Karma is a really hippie kind of perfume. It smells like a festival, but not in a dirty way. It's so beautiful. I love the smell of it. So Karma, they've got quite different notes, to be honest, but somehow they definitely smell very similar. So the top notes are orange, lemongrass and lavender, pine tree, lemon and cassis in the mid, and then the base notes are patchouli, fir, resin, elemi and cinnamon. I think that Karma smells like cola with tons of orange in it, and then this kind of hippie patchouli in the base. And it smelling it is so joyous. But yeah, I wore this and it was a bit of a headache day for me. So in fact, what I ended up doing, because I do kind of feel like there's a few similarities, I ended up wearing Mambo in the evening, because I'd tried this on one arm, but I was wearing Karma after I tested this one. So when this kind of, I mean, thankfully it's not the spray, it's just the solid, because the spray is just like way too intense for me. But when this is worn off, I put Mambo on, and I do kind of think there are some similarities between these as well, except this isn't like a patchouli bomb the way this is. And honestly, let me just get those notes up again. So this is definitely tartar. It's more acidic than this one. It's not quite as sweet. But it really does remind me of it, and it's weird because it must be something to do with the neroli that's giving me like a greenness that all the green notes in here are giving me, because this doesn't list patchouli, but it does really remind me of Karma. Yeah, it's like a juicier, more of a fruit juicy, not quite as cola-y, but it definitely reminds me of this. So if you like Sundrunk by imaginary authors, but you don't want to spend loads of money, maybe Karma might be a good one to try. If maybe not if you're as sensitive as me though, because I mean, this is so hardcore, this perfume. I love the shower gel, I love the soap, but nowadays I'm really think I'm just going to keep hold of this just for comparisons and just to smell it occasionally, because I think that might be my last ever attempt to wear Karma. And I feel the same about Rose Jam. Rose Jam is something that sometimes I really like to sniff, but I find wearing Rose Jam almost impossible. There's something about them that just don't work on my skin. But Karma is like, I mean, this is just a classic. It smells like the 90s. It really does. Yeah, there it is. So then, oh yeah, lovely. Last thing to talk about was another thing I tested on my skin from Roxy's samples that she sent. I sort of can't believe she sent me this. Roxy, tell me down in the comments whether you actually have a bottle of this or whether you sent it to me, because like this is not one that you liked enough to use up, because I'm like, damn, I wouldn't have parted with this one myself. If this is all I had, if I didn't have a full bottle, I wouldn't be parting with this sample. Oh my god. This is really up my street, to be fair. This is Guerlain and this is Angélique Noir. I kind of already knew that I would like this perfume. It is not a surprise to me that I like it, because it is the Guerlain vanilla. It is their very recognisable, absolutely delicious vanilla. But then it has Angelica, which I do like quite a lot, and pear, which is one of my absolute favourite notes. It might be nowadays my favourite fruity note. It's like got this, it's so, because of that Angelica, it's like this really weird greenness, which is so good. And then it's got this juicy pear, but then it has a very, very beautiful vanilla that comes through. And it is the same kind of vanilla that's in all of my favourites. So it's like, what's it called? My Eau de Wells. It's that kind of vanilla. My Lolita Parfum, that kind of vanilla. It's so, this is one of those where I'm like, I understand why people spend money on these fancy Guerlains, because they are beautiful. I don't know that they're worth the insane amount of money that they charge for them now, but I understand why I see people talking about this range so much on YouTube, because they are ridiculous. I mean, Spiritus Double Vanille is not my favourite, to be honest, and I think that there are so many perfumes that have duped that in a way now that you can get much more affordable versions of that. But I mean, the vanilla in that I love. I just don't particularly love some of the other notes in it, or that particular mixture. But this, because it has that green Angelica, the fruitiness with that rich vanilla doesn't go sickly to me the way that it does in a lot of other things. This just becomes very interesting. I mean, I don't get loads of pink pepper or jasmine. I just mainly get Angelica, pear and vanilla. That's the main things I get in this. I'm just going to get, let me see, did I even read the notes yet? Top notes Angelica, pear and pink pepper. Mid notes of jasmine and caraway. Base notes vanilla, Angelica and cedar. So there's a lot of Angelica. So with this one, I actually kept up the web page so I could look at what it had been compared to, because the top comparison I know is Eau de Well, and I don't actually think that this smells like Eau de Well. I just think it shares a very similar vanilla, because Eau de Well is not a fruity kind of perfume really. This I think has a very obvious pear. This is a bit more tangy, but because it's got that weird greenness, I kind of get it. But I think this is I would say this is a more challenging wear than Eau Duelle. There is a richness here, and the green is a kind of floral green in a way that it isn't in Eau Duelle. So I think Eau Duelle is a much more easy perfume to wear personally. But yeah, it's got a similar vanilla, and it's a kind of green, interesting green vanilla, but as I said, it's so fruity. I really want to try this. There's one, is it called Belle d'Amour or something? There's a Fragonard perfume that came out last year that for some reason we can't get in the UK yet, which is compared to this and is like a vanilla and Angélique perfume. So I really hope that that will arrive in Marks and Spencer's. If it does, I will compare it and then I will tell you if it actually smells like this. But so far there's 30 people who have said that it does and only 8 that have disagreed. The Architects Club one, that's the one that smells like Eau Duelle. I don't think it really smells that much like Eau Duelle. What's that one? There's another one of these that it's compared to. Fragrantica's doing a thing that says verifying that I'm human. How dare they? This is outrageous. I don't know what it's doing. I'm just trying to look at a page, dude. Okay. Oh yeah, Spiritueuse du Vanille. So it does. It's very, very sweet. It's a little bit kind of powdery in a way, even though it's also got a crispness. But it's very, very sweet, the dry down of this. It's very pretty, but it's very sweet and green. So I'd say it's also way sweeter. It's got a much more sugary sweetness going on because of that pear compared to like Eau Duelle. And what are the notes in Spiritueuse du Vanille? I just smelt something else that in fact I've got it sprayed on my arm. Another one of the samples Roxy sent me that really smells quite a lot like Spiritueuse du Vanille. So that one is a bergamot, pink pepper, cedar, vanilla, benzonia. So it's beautiful basically, but it's extremely expensive. So as I said, as soon as I can get my hands, as soon as I can get my nose on the new Belde or whatever from Fragonard, I'll test it out and I'll see whether it's a good alternative to this guy, because this is a beaut. It could be sickly for some people though, I would say. So that's my week. I've got another busy week coming up, but I think it's going to be kind of like between 15 and 17 degrees this week. So this really gave me a thirst for spring. I'm really starting to think about wearing florals. I wore a couple of perfumes this week, as you can see, that I consider to be much more floral than I have been wearing. So I'm really, really excited to break out some spring scents. I can't wait, basically. So yeah, hopefully next week it will have been warm enough for me to break out some of my more floral perfumes, my more spring appropriate perfumes, because as much as I love my winter and cold weather perfumes, it does kind of feel like it's been quite a while now. I think I'm ready to move into something a little bit more fresh, you know. All right, guys, thank you so much for listening. If you're not already subscribed, please do consider subscribing. And if you are already subscribed, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. So I'll see you guys next week. Bye.